That's Sam. I'm Alex, and this is Off the Bench Sleepers and Streamers for Week 9. We've got some deep cuts for you tonight, plus some flaming hot, bold predictions. You are not going to want to miss those. So if you're ready, and only if you're ready, let's get started. Sam.
What if they're not ready, Alex?
Well, we'll start over. We'll wait. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay.
All right. We're ready. All right. Who's your first sleeper, Sam?
I thought when I was thinking about my sleepers a couple days ago, I thought I was being real sneaky here. And then all of a sudden, and I snatched him up in a bunch of leagues. Then all of a sudden he was trending on sleeper. And then I started getting a whole lot of questions about whether or not to play Julius Chestnut from Tennessee. And, but I'm still featuring him here because I think the answer to that question is yes. Obviously, Pollard hasn't practiced all week. Spears is already out. If Pollard didn't play, then he would be a guaranteed start anyway. But even if he does, I think they're calling Pollard a game time decision. They want him to give it a go. He's not quite right. His foot still isn't right. And they also said earlier this week that they were going to make it a point to try to get Chestnut more involved in the game.
Right.
And the couple highlights I saw of him last week, man, he's really got that Chase Brown a chain kind of look to him. I mean, he bursts straight through the hole, doesn't do a lot of dancing behind the line or anything like that. So, I like what he can bring to the table as far as even if he's the second running back in that offense. We've got a lot of injuries this week. I think he's a valid flex play. I'm not going to guarantee a touchdown like I did last week with Roshan. Although
you got it.
I got that, and I got Njoku. But yeah, I like what I see of Chestnut, and he's one of those guys you kind of want to root for, man. He's fun to watch. So he's probably available in most of your leagues right now, unless you're in a particularly deep one.
Yeah. Julius Chestnut out of Sacred Heart. That is how deep we're going tonight.
Right.
Yeah, he's this guy. I'm looking at his profile right now. He's 5'11", 228. This is a big back.
Yeah, he's a tank. He's a tank,
He definitely can carry the load if needed. Now he's only got a handful of carries throughout his career, but he's been in the league since 2022 and he's managed to stick around for a reason. The team clearly likes him. They want him to be on the roster. They haven't shuffled him out. So this is his opportunity, or could be his opportunity, against the Patriots defense, who has been very susceptible to the run.
Yeah.
The head coach has called them soft.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are something like they're giving up something like the fourth most fantasy points to opposing running backs as a committee. So even just a nice chunk of that pie would be worth it to have in your lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, I'm looking at it right now. They're giving up the third most fantasy points to running backs.
Oh, there you go.
Even better.
Yeah, and if Levis is playing quarterback, then they're going to lean heavily on that run game, given the rush defense of the Patriots. So
yeah,
we'll see.
All right. So my first sleeper tonight might be a guy you're familiar with. He's a tight end out of Cincinnati, Mr. Mike Gesicki. Now, this is contingent on T. Higgins not playing, which everything is indicating that he is going to miss again this week.
Yeah.
And when T. Higgins has been out, it has been Andre Yoshivas has moved from the slot out wide, and Gesicki is jumping into the slot. He's got 103 snaps from the slot this year. 64% of his routes have come from the slot. He's only played inline tight end on 17 total snaps this year.
Yeah, so, I saw that today as well. He's not an inline tight end. You know, they're just putting him out there to catch passes.
Yeah, and he's done it in the past. He had some big spike weeks back in his Dolphins days. Patriots didn't know how to use him, but in the games that Higgins has been out this year, which has been 3 times, obviously he was, those first 2 weeks he missed with the hamstring. Mike Gesicki has 17 catches, 182 receiving yards in those 2 games. In those 3 games, and in 2 of them, he actually led the team in receiving yards. 2 of the 3 led the team in receiving yards. He's had target shares of 14%, 25%, and 22%. And in the games, to compare the games with Higgins, that's been 13%, 3%, 5%, and 4%. So the role is completely different from Mike Gesicki when T. Higgins is active compared to when he is not.
Yeah, not only that, he's actually got more in games that T is inactive. Gesicki has more catches and yards than Jamar Chase, if you can believe that.
That's unbelievable.
So, that all that does is tell you, what to use. And I'm sure he got, even in shallow leads, he probably got picked up after a nice game last week, which I don't know how much stock to put in that, because Burrow's got a funny personality, and it's one of those things where he's like, "Oh, it's National Tight End Day. Hey, be ready." You know what I mean? Like, that's totally something he would do, and just like force feed the ball that way to be like, "See, I can do whatever I want." But yeah, I look for Gesicki to have a good game against the Raiders this week for sure. And Kelsey just went off on him last week.
Yeah, and one more thing with the 3 games that Higgins has been out, the fantasy points that Gesicki has given us, 4.8, which wasn't great, but 16.1, and then 13.3 last week. He went 7 of 8 targets, 73 yards. He's a very usable tight end. He might be a borderline tight end 1, top 10, top 12 tight end this week. You can play him. Kittle is on a bye week this week. People who need to replace Kittle, you can pick up Mike Gesicki. He's available in 91% of Yahoo leagues. Go pick up Mike Gesicki. Start him, stream him with confidence.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go, as long as we're talking about borderline tight ends, I guess this guy fits the bill. And I'm not going to make people wait before they see the guy that's on the thumbnail. But Taysom Hill, I like Taysom Hill this week, which is especially surprising because I don't like Taysom Hill. I've never been a big fan. I've never utilized him with any regularity at all, just because he's not consistent. The big weeks are awesome, but the floor of 0 is enough for me to stay away. But this week they put Kendre Miller on the IR again. He's back for another 4 games on the IR, and Bub Means went on the IR today as well. Jamal Williams is out, and Kamara, he's been going all year with doing limited practice and then showing up on Sundays, and I expect him to do that again. But it's worth noting that he's practiced even less this week than he usually does.
He's got 2 injuries this week. He's on injury report for.
He's starting to build a resume, like finger, wrist, arm, ribs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hand and rib right now.
Yeah, so I think this is one of those situations where they've got to use the Swiss Army knife if for no other reason than just to keep the defense completely guessing as to what they're going to do. Like I said, I still expect Kamara to play. I still expect to get his, but it's also Carolina. So if Kamara is banged up, then once they build a comfortable lead, all bets are off as to what they're going to do at that point. I'm sure they're going to promote somebody else from the practice squad, who's probably going to get some carries, and Hill might continue to do so through the end of the game.
And Taysom Hill, when the Saints get to the red zone, he is like the bad tight end version of Kyron Williams. He's just a touchdown machine. He's just attracted to the end zone. Just constantly, they get him the ball down there. So all you need is 1 or 2 touchdowns, and Taysom Hill's going to get there for you.
Yeah, well, and he's going to have a lot easier time this week than he did against the Chargers.
Of course.
Chargers, he had what 2 for 20, I think, receiving.
It's going to help with Derek Carr back as well. The whole offense is going to be more efficient. They're going to be in the red zone more. They're going to actually be functional, be able to take advantage of that terrible Panthers defense.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that I think that's one of the reasons we haven't seen more Taysom lately, is just because they haven't been able to work up his packages with guys like Rattler and Hayner, because they, Carr knows it all. They call a play, and Carr's like, okay, I know how that goes.
It's similar to what we talked about with Devon Achane.
Yeah, and they've had to dial back the playbook. So, so Taysom Hill is my number 2. So, who you got next?
I got Parker Washington. Parker Washington of the Jaguars. He steps into the slot role with Christian Kirk out. Now, I really like Parker Washington a lot more if we're going to be without Brian Thomas Jr. and or Gabe Davis. Those are both up in the air. I'm expecting we're going to get one of those late night tweets from Adam Schefter telling us whether these guys are expected to play or not. That's going to come right after we finish the show, by the way.
Right. Of course it is.
Of course it is. But if at least one of these guys is out, maybe even both of them, we're going to get a nice role for Parker Washington. Last week when Kirk went down, he had 3 catches for 46 yards and 4 targets. Not too bad in half a game. And the Eagles, they've allowed the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Trevor Lawrence has been playing much better. He's completed 72% of his passes and has had a 109 passer rating over the last 4 weeks. It was a really rough start for him, but he's been much, much better. And the Jaguars are 7.5-point road underdogs. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot, keep up with the Eagles. That could mean just volume for Parker Washington. Of course, the big beneficiary here, of course, is Evan Ingram. He's going to absolutely smash. He's a top 3 tight end this week. He doesn't belong in the Sleepers to Streamers show, so I think the next guy could be Parker Washington. He's only rostered in 4% of Yahoo leagues. I'm not loving putting him in the starting lineup, but we got guys on buys this week. Obviously, we know all the wide receiver injuries that are stacking up. Parker Washington is a guy you can find in just about every waiver wire right now. You can plug and play him and at least think you can get, 8 to 12 points from Parker Washington.
Yeah, I agree. And Trevor does still love the home run ball. And even though Parker is going to be lined up in the slot, he's got enough football acumen that he's able to extend plays and break off a route and go upfield if it looks like Trevor wants him to go upfield. I think he did that. I don't have stats in front of me, but I think he did that a couple times when we saw him last year.
He did.
So it's not like Parker Washington is a complete unknown. We've seen him do some good things before, enough so that I've got him in several dynasty leagues where I knew I wasn't going to use him for 2 or 3 years, but I stashed him and held on to him for just such an occasion, as it were.
good quality, solid receiver. He's not a game breaker. He's not a flashy guy, except for he's got a nice return game going.
Yeah.
But as far as a wide receiver, he's just that steady guy who can get you 3 to 5 receptions, 30 to 70 receiving yards, maybe get you a touchdown. Just a nice, steady floor that can just get you through a week.
Yeah, I agree. I like him, and I'm playing him in at least one league.
All right, who you got next?
My last one, I'm not digging so deep here, Alex. My last one is just a little more. Just go ahead and start him because he's a sometimes yes, sometimes no kind of guy. Tyler Lockett is still only rostered in 60% of Yahoo leagues. So in some more shallow ones, he might be available. But particularly in PPR, obviously he flopped last week against Buffalo.
Yeah.
But all of Seattle flopped last week. They scored 10 points. That was the only time this season they've scored less than 20 in a game, and the total on this game is 48. I expect it to go over quite comfortably. It's going to be in the 50s for sure. And I like Lockett to do what we expected him to do last week, or at least I did. So, this is more of if you're seesawing between Lockett and somebody else on your roster, I think you're safe with Lockett this week. And I know we usually dig a little deeper on our sleepers on this show. But I was just looking at him, and every person I looked at, I kept coming back to Lockett. I started comparing guys to him. I was like, well, would I play him or Lockett? Lockett. Would I play him or Lockett? Lockett. So lock it in.
I might give you some beats here. You keep going with that.
Would I play him? Lockett. Would I play him? Lockett.
That was me this week with Jacoby Myers. I almost added him as a sleeper for this show, but I already had my guys decided. I think Jacoby Myers is probably in that same range where he's not really a sleeper, but he kind of is. I feel really good about playing him this week. But I'm with you with.
I also know you just like picking guys against Cincinnati, and that makes me so angry.
Well, I'm not going to do that tonight.
But at least you picked a Bengal this week.
Even though I was very tempted to go Trey Tucker this week.
I actually recommended Trey Tucker to somebody earlier today just because of the soft zone Cincinnati plays.
If this was a 4-sleeper show instead of 3 sleepers, Trey Tucker would have made the show.
Now, hold on. Is your last one going to be 2 people? Because you would need a 5-sleeper show.
I might have cheated and done a 2-for-1 with my last sleeper.
Okay. All right. Let's hear it. Who we got?
So we got a 2-for. So I'm looking at the Panthers, which feels disgusting, especially the Bryce Young Panthers. And I almost talked myself out of going this direction this morning. I decided to stick with my guns and go with it. Diontae Johnson traded. Adam Thielen's still out. He might be traded this week as well. Xavier Legette is still only rostered in 25% of leagues, despite the first-round draft capital, despite scoring 3 touchdowns in his last 5 games, despite having 3 games with more than 7 targets. And he gets a matchup this week against the Saints, who have allowed the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. On top of that, they're going to be without Marshawn Lattimore and Kool-Aid McKinstry. The secondary is wide open for Xavier Legette to run all over the place. Even Bryce Young can find him for a few targets and maybe a touchdown or 2.
I run an end around with him, for crying out loud.
Yes, the guy is like he's almost AJ Brown like athletically.
Mm-hmm.
He's no AJ Brown, but just as an athletic specimen, he's AJ Brown like.
Yeah.
Playing off of Xavier Legette to go even deeper, because there are, 25% of leagues where Xavier Legette is rostered. You might want to look at Jalen Coker. And Jalen Coker feels like the trap of all traps. He feels like the Dontavian Wicks of the week because everybody's talking up Jalen Coker, but I couldn't help but buy in. He's a 6'1", 208-pound undrafted rookie out of Holy Cross. We talked about a guy, you talk about going deep. We're talking about Holy Cross, and we're talking about Sacred Heart guys on this show tonight. He's got 98th percentile burst according to Player Profiler. He's giving you 10.8 fantasy points in week 5 with 4 catches, 68 yards on 4 targets. Did it again last week, but he got in the end zone with 4 for 78 and a touchdown on 6 targets. Gave you a nice 17.8 fantasy points. He was the wide receiver 17 last week, and he did it with Bryce Young at quarterback. And this guy is on the field. With no Diontae Johnson, he was on the field for 80% of the routes. He ran 70% of those from the slot. So this guy lives in the slot. And the Saints, they've allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers.
So what you're saying is line up some Coker.
Line them up, baby. Line them up.
I believe we just got a super chat thing here.
Sure did. Let's get to John. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
John knows how to cut the line, get ahead.
Yeah, that's
so he's
right.
asking full PPR, pick one, Tank Bigsby because Dell's already played. Travis Etienne, Jalen Coker, assuming they both play. Let's start with that. So Etienne, we got the tweets before the show. Etienne is trending towards playing. Does that change who you would play for the running backs from Jacksonville? Etienne or Tank Bigsby?
You know, at first blush, I'd say yes, because Tank Dell's efficiency has gone down a little bit. And if this is a PPR league, then I know that Etienne's going to take probably all the third down work, if not more than that. So between the 3 of them, if they say Etienne is good to go, then I'm going to go Etienne.
Yeah, I agree with you. For the even if Tank Bigsby leads the team in carries, he might have 14 carries to Travis Etienne's 10. And then Travis Etienne, with the Jaguars being 7.5-point road dogs, he's going to be the guy out there on the field catching the passes in the passing game. He's going to be the guy, because we've talked about it before. They don't trust Tank Bigsby in the passing game. He's not a receiver. He's a between the tackles plotter. So
yeah,
it would be Etienne.
Cinder blocks for hands, or at least that's what they seem to think. Yeah, I just think in a PPR league, this is way too easily Etienne in with the way the game script is due to go.
And then what do you think? Saints defense against the Panthers or Vikings defense against the Joe Flacco Colts?
I like Saints against the Panthers.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's we finished our sleepers, right? So let's grab a couple questions before we get to our flaming hot bold takes. I got the boldest take of the season so far. I'm sure you're going to bring another lukewarm one. I can't wait for it. Let's just grab let's grab a couple
You of jerk.
You know, my bold take last week was this close to happening. This close. We just missed it.
What was it again? I can't even remember what it was.
It was Devon Achane was going to be RB1 on the week. He was the RB2.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty good.
But our bold takes this week are way hotter.
How bold was that, though?
It was slightly warmer than lukewarm. Okay. We are flaming this week. We are flaming. I promise you, we are flaming. Let's grab just a couple quick questions real quick. This one from Dros King 1. Do we start Hawkinson over Kraft or Andrews?
Can you tell me opponents? I forget.
The Vikings are playing the Colts. The Packers are playing. See, I always know these, but then when we get on the spot, then I kind of forget.
Right. You know what? I think you can stop right there. I'm putting Hawkinson in right now. I think Darnold is going to be, well, first of all, Hawkinson's been practicing for 3 weeks. And so it's not like he and Darnold need to get on the same page. I think Darnold's going to be way too excited to see a big guy right in front of him that he can complete 10-yard passes to. And we all know that the Colts pass defense is just atrocious. So even shallower in. So I'm gonna go Hawkinson this week, and I'm usually a proponent when somebody comes back from injury to giving them 1 week to work their way in. Not this time. I'm going straight to Hawkinson.
Well, I mean, Hawkinson, they gave him the full 21-day window to practice.
Yeah.
They've got a great offense. He's going to jump right into that offense. He's going to be immediately the number 2 in that offense.
Yep.
It's not Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison ain't it. It's going to be Jefferson. It's going to be Aaron Jones in the backfield. It's going to be TJ Hawkinson. I might start Tucker Kraft. I like the shootout environment with Jordan Love playing against the Lions, but I really couldn't argue against you if you want to go Hawkinson there for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate a double tight end situation here, depending on who your flex is. I might play Hawkinson and Kraft.
Hawkinson might get you more catches. Tucker Kraft probably more likely for a touchdown.
Right.
All right, let's grab this one from JJ Green. Would you start Khalil Shakir, Tillman, Cedric Tillman, or Calvin Ridley this week? You can only get one of them. So Ridley is playing the Patriots. Tillman is playing the Chargers, and the Bills are playing the Dolphins for Khalil Shakir.
Okay, Shakir's out because the Dolphins have been pretty good in pass defense all year until they gave up 2 touchdowns last week. Prior to that, I think they had only given up 3 on the season. Tillman, jury's still out, man. I know he had a great game last week, and I know the temptation is we want every new guy to be a league winner. But I'm still a wait and see on Tillman. Ridley has been very disappointing this year, but I don't know who else is going to be catching balls for Tennessee. So I reluctantly would go Ridley. I would understand if somebody made the argument for Tillman. And I love Shakir, but not this week.
The worry for me with Tillman is you've seen the last couple of weeks. You saw, especially last week against the Ravens, it was a complete shootout environment against the Ravens defense, who is so susceptible to the pass. They give a ton of points to wide receivers. They let Jameis just go crazy. This is going to be a completely different game environment against the Chargers, who have a much better defense than the Ravens, and they play a much more conservative brand of offense. This could be I would not be surprised if both of those teams are held under 20 points. It's going to be a low-scoring game, which means less passing, less points for the guy.
Yeah, they're gonna. I think they're both gonna try to grind it out. And even if they're not getting constant first downs on the ground, I don't care if it's a whole ton of 3 and outs in a row. The clock is going to go tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, I agree. Let's grab one more. We got KJ in here. KJ was in the show with us last week. Let's grab him. Better flex option this week. Jalen Coker, Javonte Williams, or Taysom Hill, who we got on the thumbnail. And then this is 2 separate questions. Coker or Javonte Williams, and then Taysom Hill or Diontae Johnson. I think these are 2 separate questions.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I'll just I'll rank them in order. I'll go Diontae Johnson. I'd play him because I think Flowers is going to get the Surtain treatment. And I think Deontay's been there. 1 question for all 4. Okay.
Yeah. Let me pull it back up because I forgot the players.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so it was Coker, Javonte Williams. I can't trust Javonte after last week. I was sure, or was it the week before?
No, yeah,
I was sure he was going to do it, and
he didn't smash there.
He didn't do it.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill, Diontae Johnson. Man, this is a good one, actually. I'm gonna go Diontae just for
Interesting.
pedigree. He's the best player of this bunch. And like I said, I think Flowers is going to get the Surtain treatment. And I think Deontay's been there long enough that Lamar is going to want to play with his new toy. Even though, the game script is going to call for a lot of Derrick Henry. I still see Diontae coming out with more points than any of the other three.
Yeah, that one's really tough.
It is a tough one.
I think I would. You know what? That might just be the way to go. But it would, for me, it would be either Diontae or Coker. Javonte feels gross, even though just against the Ravens, I think they're going to lean on the pass game for the Broncos. I do like Taysom Hill, though. All right. You ready for some bold predictions?
We're saying Diontae. KJ. Final answer.
All right. Plug it in. All right. Who you got for your bold prediction? Did you bring one this week?
How come my bold prediction is always first? Oh, because you gotta do the dramatic ending.
I went first one time. I went first once.
Okay, well, you said you had a really big one, so
I got a really big one. I got a really big one.
I have mine is a little less lukewarm this week, based on the travel situation that I saw today. I now believe.
Don't even.
I'm going to. Rico Dowdle.
Okay. All right.
Is going
to finish. Going Dalvin Cook
is going to finish RB1
and RB1
this week. Not an RB1.
Oh my god.
The RB1 this week for the Dallas Cowboys. How's that for lukewarm?
That is wild. I mean, we're trying to go bold, but you're going unrealistic, I think.
Well, he's a must start regardless.
Okay. All right. I like it. Definitely better than last week. I'll give you that. All right. For sure.
All right. What you got?
All right. So we already talked about the Saints. Just talked about Derek Carr is back. We talked about going against the Panthers defense, which is terrible. We talked about, or we didn't talk about, but no Rashid Shaheed in that offense, no Kendre Miller in that offense, no Jamal Williams in that offense. And you made a really nice case for Taysom Hill. So my bold prediction is that Taysom Hill will become the fifth player in NFL history, in the first since Christian McCaffrey in 2022, have a rushing, receiving, and passing touchdown in the same game.